last type of writing equations we're going to do is for quadratic functions. So, for this, there are two different options for how you can start. You can either start by using the vertex in vertex form, or you can start by using the zeros. No matter which of these you start with, you're going to have to multiply it out to get it back to standard form. Remember, that standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c. And for both of them, you have to know which direction your graph opens. If it is the U shape and it opens up, then your a is positive. If it's the rainbow shape or the frowny face, it opens down, which means your a is negative. So remember, positive people smile, negative people frown. So it's kind of a way you can keep it in your brain. So I'm going to start with the graph. I'm going to do one using the vertex type and one using the zeros. So for letter F, the first thing I'm going to do is I want to see how it opens. So this graph opens down. The arrows are pointing down, so it's opening down. That means that my a is negative. And for us, it's just going to be 1. So you don't have to worry about it being negative 2 or negative 5 or anything like that. Just negative 1. Another way you can do that is if you start at your vertex and you think about rise over run to get to the next point, it would be down 1 over 1. So negative 1. So I'm going to use the vertex method for this one. So my vertex for this graph is at positive 1, 9. And I'm going to plug that in to this formula. Remember, that h is the x value, k is the y value. So I'm going to have y is equal to a, so my a is negative 1, times x minus h, so minus 1, squared plus k, which is 9. So that is my equation in vertex form. Now I have to multiply it out to get it to standard form for my final answer. So remember that whenever you're squaring something, it's just multiplying that by itself. So I'm going to write that x minus 1 twice. Now I'm going to distribute x times x is x squared, x times negative 1 is negative 1x, negative 1 times x is negative 1x, negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1, and then I still have that plus 9 at the back I need to bring down. Now I'm going to combine my like terms. That'll give me negative 2x. And I still have that plus 9 at the back. Then I'm going to distribute my negative 1. So that'll be negative x squared plus 2x minus 1 plus 9. So negative 1 times x squared is negative x squared. Negative 1 times negative 2x is positive 2x. Negative 1 times positive 1 is negative 1. And last but not least, combine my like terms again. And that'll give me negative x squared plus 2x plus 8. That would be what I would write on my equation line. Negative x squared plus 2x plus 8. So this is the vertex form method. You can use this method or the method I'm going to show you for J. So this is one method. The other method is using our zeros. So I'm going to call this one our zeros method. The first thing you do is you still need to know how it opens. So if I look at my ends, my arrows are both pointing up. So this graph is opening up, which means my A is positive 1. So again, if I start at the vertex, up 1 over 1, so positive 1. Now my zeros here are x equals 1 and x equals 3. So if I look back to these little notes, it tells me, let's see if I can fit them both on one page. Here we go. Sorry. So it tells me y is equal to a times x minus p times x minus q. P and q are just zeros. So our zeros are 1 and 3. So that would be your p and your q. So y is equal to a is positive 1 here, times x minus my first 0, times x minus my second 0. So even though these are positive, in my formula I'm subtracting. I still have to multiply it out to get it to standard form. So this time nothing is being squared, so I don't have to write anything twice. I can jump straight into distributing. So x times x is x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x. Negative 1 times negative 3 is positive 3. Combine my like terms. X squared minus 4x plus 3. If I distribute the 1, multiplying by 1, it's just going to keep everything the same. So my equation would be y is equal to x squared minus 4x plus 3. So this is the zeros method. So the last one to do is C. So I know I kind of went out of order here. Now this one is quadratic because it has that constant second difference. If you are using the vertex method, then you need to find the vertex first. So my vertex here is, it's usually in the middle of the table. It's where those values start to repeat. So everything's repeating around this 0, 9. So if I kind of work my way out, it goes to 8, then 5, then 0. Also notice that these values are getting smaller, which means it would be the U shape. So this is my vertex. If I wanted to use the zeros, that's where the y's are 0. So my zeros are negative 3 and 3. So I'm going to use the vertex method. I might try to show you both on the same problem just so you can see that both will give you the same thing. Since it's this rainbow shape, frowny face shape, that means my A is going to be negative 1. If my vertex is at 0, 9, remember that's your H, that's your K. So y is equal to A times x minus h squared plus k. I'm going to write this part twice. It's being squared, so it's multiplied by itself. And I'm going to distribute. X times x is x squared. X times 0. I'm going to write 0x. Just know it's just 0. I'm going to do it again. That would just be 0x, and that would just be 0. So 0x is the same thing as 0. Adding 0, subtracting 0 doesn't change anything. So this part would simplify to negative 1 times x squared plus 9. Because we don't need 0x and we don't need 0. So if I distribute that, negative x squared plus 9, that would be my standard form. So let's make sure that we get the same thing if we use the 0 method. So this is the vertex form method. I'm going to squeeze in my 0 method up here. And I know that I should end up with this equation. So if I don't, something's going wrong. So if I look back up at the top, it's going to be y is equal to a times x minus p times x minus q. So y is equal to a, which we already said is negative 1, times x minus my first 0. Well, this would be negative 3. So minus negative 3 times x minus the second 0, which is positive 3. Remember, minus and negative is adding. So I'm going to distribute first. That'll be x squared minus 3x plus 3x minus 9. Negative 3x and 3x is just 0x, which is just 0. So that would be negative 1 times x squared minus 9. Distribute that negative 1, negative x squared plus 9. So as you can see, either method is fine. They're both going to get you to the same standard form.